There's one slide that was available to you that I completely glossed over in the previous video, and it's this one about stacks and queues. I don't believe it's particularly relevant for Lab 4, but I love talking about it. First, let's talk about queues. So these are other types of collections. A queue is sometimes called FIFO, first in, first out. So what that means is it's a list, basically, and as you add things to the list, all you can do is take out the first thing that was put into the list. So by using the NQ method, things are added to the list, and by using the DQ method, things are removed from the list, and whichever went into the list first will be the first one out. There's also a peek method to view the next one that would come out. This actually comes in handy a fair amount of the time, and usually the classic example is a lineup. So whoever goes into the line first will be the first one out. Of course, I've got a different example. As many of you know, I love board games, so I thought of a board game that would really exemplify queuing. This game is called Bonanza, and it's more of a card game than a board game. It's a bean trading game, and these cards are your beans. What's funny about this game is that you always have to keep your hand in the same order, and the order of your hand matters quite a bit. The way it goes is that, on your turn, you can plant 1 or 2 beans from your hand. So I plant these 2 cards, I mean beans, sorry. I can't play the rest, you can only play 2. I have to play from the front of my hand. So this is DQing these cards. Then as the next part of my turn, I have to show 2 cards face up and do something with them. And this part is, well, this part is completely unrelated to queues. I choose to plant one of these maybe, and maybe I want to get rid of my chili bean. I can trade it to someone else, and they probably have something else I want. They're being careful to keep their hand in order like a queue too. So maybe they trade me a wax bean, and I plant it and I'm happy. Then I have to pick up 3 cards at the end of every turn, so I am enqueuing those. So every turn you're going to be dequeuing at least 1 card and enqueuing 3 at the end of each turn. The middle of your turn isn't really closely related, but let's ignore that. If I were to take another turn, I would plant 1, that's dequeuing, grab 2 more cards and get rid of them somehow, and enqueue 3 cards to the back of my hand. My hand is staying in order. The first one into my hand is going to be the first one I have to play. It's not a perfect analogy maybe, but it's pretty good. A stack is another type of collection, and this one is sometimes called LIFO. The last one in is the first one out. So think of anything where you're stacking things. Whichever is the last thing to go on the stack is going to be the first thing you take off the top. So there's a push method to add things to the stack, a pop method to remove things from the stack, and a peek method to look at the top item on the stack. So think of a deck of cards that's face up. Peeking will show you the top item that's on the stack. You can remove things from the top or put things on the top. So elements in the stack are in reverse order from original entry, last in, first out. Both of these have a count property and a clear method to completely clear them out. So if we're talking about a stack, I thought of another kind of card game. I could use normal cards, and I do own normal playing cards like a normal person, but I'm choosing to use these ones from a game called Dominion, which really everyone should go play because it's great. This is also a card game. The reason I wanted to show this one is because it shows a bit more of the stack behavior. So, for example, this is my hand. It happens to have some copper pieces in it and a couple of cards that allow me to manipulate the deck a little bit. So if I play this spy card, it gives me 1 card and 1 extra action. So I can draw another card when I play it. And it says, each player, including you, reveals the top card of their deck and either discards it or puts it back, your choice. So this is a peek method. I'm looking at the top and choosing whether to keep it or not. This card happens to be a total waste of my time, so on my own deck, I want to discard this. This is a pop method, and it's to my benefit. If I look at my opponent's deck, they've got a copper piece. That's not necessarily bad. Maybe I'll tell them to put it back. So that's a peek action. On my side, it was a peek and a pop. For my next action, since I get an extra action from the spy, I'll play this bureaucrat card. This lets me gain a silver card and put it on top of my deck. Putting this on top of my deck is a push method. and it's going to give me a better draw in my next round. And then each other player reveals a victory card from their hand and puts it on top of their deck, or reveals their hand with no victory cards. They happen to have no victory cards. That's not great as a demonstration, I suppose, but I dealt this out legitimately. I guess I wish I was really playing right now. Here, let me cheat a bit. Suppose this is what was in the guy's hand. Here's a victory card, which is a pretty crappy thing to have in your hand. So I would put this back on top of his deck, which is a push method, and that way it's going to give him a worse draw next time. So drawing is a pop action, and putting things back on a deck is a push action. This game features both quite a bit. Next up, something programming related.